Now then, Leeds fans, hope you are doing very well. Today we are here to talk about the goalkeeping position, and we have been strongly linked with a name that we've been linked with several times before, certainly heavily last season before we signed Lucas Perry. Before I carry on, if you are watching the channel for the first time, please subscribe to the channel. I am going to be far more consistent with my content going forward. Please like the channel as well, share it with your friends, share it around. Let's build up a brand new community of people that just talk straight when it comes to Leeds United. There's no fluff, there's no distraction, there's no agendas. So, thank you very much for jumping in. We are here to discuss the future of the goalkeeping position for Leeds United. I want to talk about Lucas Perry, I want to talk about Caldalo, but then the name that is being heavily linked with Leeds United is Nick Pope. Now, I'm going to tell you straight off the bat where I stand with Nick Pope. And I think a year ago, before we signed Lucas Perry, when we were on promotion to the Premier League, I'd have been fairly happy with Nick Pope coming in. I think he's got a huge amount of Premier League experience. He is a fantastic shot stopper. I think for year after year he kept Burnley in the Premier League. If I'm honest, he was by far their best player. He was always their go-to man. But time elapses, and he's had his period of time at Newcastle where he's also been extremely important as well. Last season he was in and out of the side, swapping with Aaron Ramsdale, who I also think is a bomb scare. I personally wouldn't go anywhere near Aaron Ramsdale. And when he signed for Newcastle, as opposed to signing for Leeds 12 months ago, because we were heavily linked with him as well, I was quite relieved, if I'm honest. And I saw Lucas Perry as being quite a good alternative. We'll come to Lucas Perry, we'll come to Caldalo as part of this chat. But Nick Pope specifically, a year ago, I'd have been pretty happy with that as a signing before Lucas Perry. Now, we've gone on a year, we've seen what Nick Pope has had to kind of put out there in the Premier League last season, and the truth is he struggled. He struggled to keep down that first team spot. He still kept on winning it back because Ramsdale isn't consistent, but we saw the difficulties with Nick Pope. We saw the struggles that he has. We know through years of watching Nick Pope that Nick Pope struggles with the football at his feet. He's an old school goalkeeper. He's getting on a little bit now. Not that that matters to Caldalo, who has improved dramatically over the last season and a bit with regards to the work with his feet. So, yeah, he's not a keeper that feels comfortable with playing the ball, and we need that as part of our build-up. Now, it's less so because we do play far more direct than we did in the Championship, but I still think it's important for a Daniel Farke goalkeeper to be able to play with his feet, as it is for most goalkeepers in the Premier League now. So for me, Nick Pope's a big no-no. I'm going to bring up the story that this has been kind of reported from. It is, I believe, Team Talk are not that reliable, but still, this is what we've got as it currently stands. Let me just scroll back up here. Because Football Insider, sorry. So Leeds are interested in Pope, and speaking to Football Insider, former Everton CEO Keith Wyness has stressed that the Newcastle star will end up at Ellen Road this summer. He stressed that Leeds will have to sell Lucas Perry and believes it would be a great deal for them if they replace the Brazilian with Pope ahead of next season. And he goes on to talk about the fact that we are going to be favourites for the signature. Ipswich are also interested as well, which makes a lot more sense to me, considering their goalkeeper position and them coming up from the Championship to the Premier League. He might go for something around 10 or 12 million. Now, I don't know if in that particular moment they're referring to Lucas Perry or Nick Pope, but if we're talking about Nick Pope there at around 10 million, that for me is a bit concerning. We've already spent 15 million on Lucas Perry, of which then if we're going to replace him with Nick Pope, we're not going to get any return on the investment for Nick Pope. And money is still a big consideration for Leeds United when they are trying to strategise over this next few years. So if it's an option between keep Lucas Perry and try and really reintegrate him into the squad and Nick Pope, I've got to be honest with you, I'm leaning more towards reintegrating Lucas Perry. I think Lucas Perry was heavily... I'm just going to drop this down. I think Lucas Perry was heavily criticised unfairly last season. I still think there's a goalkeeper there. I know he had poor performances. I know he had issues throughout the season, but he's a brand new goalkeeper to a brand new league. He's establishing himself in a new team. The goalkeeper position is without a doubt the most difficult position to play on the pitch. It's as simple as that. You make a mistake, it's a goal behind you. You know, so it's a difficult ground for him to come into there for Lucas Perry, and he still had good performances as well as the bad ones. Illan Meslier, you know, I've been very staunch in my defence and my praise of Daniel Farke over the years. But the one area that I think that he's found real tricky to balance is this situation in the goalkeeper position. 18 months ago, 2 years ago now, we made the decision way too late to remove Illan Meslier from the starting lineup and bring in Karl Darlow, who we know was going to be at least a safe pair of hands, shall we say. Forward on a year or so after that, and he then bombs Lucas Perry out of the squad after what I would argue wasn't even his mistake away at Newcastle. Not only that, but he then came into the media and publicly criticised Lucas Perry when a year prior to that he refused to do that with Illan Meslier. So maybe he got scarred by Illan and then he dealt with this situation the polar opposite, or maybe it's just down to the individuals. You know, a great man manager, which I do believe he is, Daniel Farke, will know how to handle Illan Meslier the best and will know how to handle Lucas Perry the best. And Karl Darlow has also changed his perception in that period of time as well. He's gone from probably not having trust in Karl Darlow to then gaining trust in Karl Darlow because of the performances that he's put in during that time. So I get it. I understand the landscape's a little bit different, but still, I believe that we bombed out Lucas Perry very quickly. And then you've got the position of Karl Darlow. Now, Karl Darlow has somehow, from signing for Leeds for £500,000 as a backup goalkeeper in the Championship, almost now put himself into a position where he's arguably a number one goalkeeper in the Premier League. I think last season he showed himself to be very assured most of the time. I think his distribution has improved immeasurably. When he first came into the team, he really struggled with the ball at his feet. Now he doesn't. I think he's confident and comfortable in claiming balls and reading plays over the top, which I think Lucas Perry struggles with. He has a good reading of the game. I think he's switched on. I think most backup keepers have a real trouble to adjusting week in, week out, being focused and at that level all the time. I think he stepped up and shown that he can do that. And I also think he started showing moments where he becomes a match winner. He saves chances which he wouldn't have been necessarily expected to, which then wins us points. Nick Pope used to do it massively for Burnley. I don't feel like during the last 2 or 3 seasons for Illan Meslier that he was doing that, and that is partly down to the club, and I could do a whole other video on that altogether. But that's what Karl Darlow has kind of created. He's created this issue. Now he's at the end of his contract, he's got suitors elsewhere. I made a video last week on Manchester United being heavily linked with him, and I think it would be a great move for him and for Manchester United as far as a backup keeper is concerned. As I've just said, he's kind of established himself as a number one goalkeeper in the Premier League, so it makes a lot of sense. So what do you do with him? Do you assure him the number one spot? Do you assure Lucas Perry the number one spot? Do you say, look, it's up for grabs and both of you going at it again? I think that's a very viable route as well. But will either of them be happy with that? Because usually a goalkeeper kind of sets his stall out as I'm the number one and he's the number two. So does that work? And then you've got this kind of separate situation with Nick Pope. So I just think it's a real interesting conundrum, and I'd be really interested to get your guys' thoughts on it as well. Put your comments if you're watching this video after in the comment section below, and I will respond to them all. And I'd just be really interested to get your feeling. Would you go for Nick Pope? Would you go for Karl Darlow as our number one? Or would you look to reintegrate Lucas Perry? Or, fourth option, would you sell Lucas Perry and go for somebody completely different? And I think that is probably the way that most people will go. I think most people would be kind of more inclined to look to move on Lucas Perry and then sign another goalkeeper that's not Nick Pope. But maybe give me both. Give me an alternative name, which I could do a potential other video on as well. Probably will do that later on this week. other options of goalkeepers. I like doing my scouting, so I could probably do that. Give me another name, but also then give me option 1, 2, or 3. Nick Pope, Cal Darlow's number 1, or Lucas Perry is number 1. So yeah, that's going to be it for today's video, and thank you for joining me, and please, as always, like, comment, subscribe, let us know exactly what you think, and like I say, I will respond to all of the